Hey, this is Soundcheck, a new series on the Misophonia podcast, and I'm Adil Ahmad. What you're about to hear is an AI-generated conversation between two AI personalities. What they will be discussing is a new AI research platform that I'm developing, which blends past scientific research with lived experience shared publicly on the podcast and questions and comments from the community. You can read more about this new platform at misophoniapodcast.com/research. But my guests do a great job of explaining it themselves. So without further ado, I'll turn things over to them.
Hey everyone, and a huge thanks to Adil Ahmad for having us on the Soundcheck series here on the Misophonia podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into, something pretty groundbreaking. We're talking about the AI research engine and how it could completely change the research landscape for misophonia.
Yeah, it's a really exciting development.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar with this yet, can you give us a quick overview of what this AI research engine is all about?
Well, you can think of it like this. Imagine having a tireless research assistant, one who can go through tons and tons of information and then come up with fresh ideas for studying misophonia. That's basically what this AI does. It doesn't just brainstorm, though. It goes a step further and actually creates detailed research proposals, ones that scientists can actually use to get funding and start real studies.
Wow. That sounds like it could really be a game changer. I mean, I still remember spending countless nights in the library going through all those journals, just trying to find a new angle for my research. This AI could make that whole process a lot smoother, couldn't it?
Absolutely. It's still in its early stages. You know, it's in what they're calling a technology preview phase right now, but the full launch is set for early 2025. And what's really cool is that it's designed to be modular.
Okay, modular. Now I'm intrigued. What does that mean when we're talking about AI?
Well, think of it like building blocks, like those you played with as a kid.
Ah, okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, so the AI research engine, it's made up of different components. And the cool part is each of these components can be updated or even replaced as technology improves. So it's not like it's going to be outdated in a couple of years. You know, this thing is designed to constantly learn and adapt, evolve along with the newest advancements.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like future-proofing the whole research process.
Yeah.
So walk me through how it works. How does this thing actually get its information?
It pulls data from three main places. First, it goes through a massive library of scientific articles and research papers. I'm talking millions of documents, all about misophonia and related topics.
So it's basically absorbing all that existing knowledge. What else?
This is where it gets even more interesting. It actually analyzes transcripts from podcasts, like the Misophonia podcast.
Wait a minute. So it's actually listening to podcasts. That's brilliant.
It is. And the reason that's so crucial is that podcasts, they often capture those lived experiences of people who actually have misophonia. The personal stories, the insights, the stuff you might not find in a formal research paper.
I love that. It's like the AI is getting a crash course in what it's actually like to deal with misophonia every day, not just from the science, but from real people. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got the scientific papers and the podcasts. What's the third source?
It also takes questions and insights straight from the misophonia community. So if you've ever wondered about something related to misophonia, your question could actually end up influencing the research.
So the AI has all this info from scientific papers, podcasts, and the community. What does it deal with it all? How does it actually make research proposals?
It's a 4-stage process. The first stage is gathering and processing all that data. We call that the data stage.
Makes sense. Got to start with the ingredients, right? What happens next?
Then comes the rumination stage. This is where the AI starts connecting the dots. It identifies potential areas for research, kind of like brainstorming, but it can do it so much faster and on a way bigger scale.
So it's going through this massive amount of information and coming up with research ideas. Does that mean it's going to replace human researchers?
Not at all. Human researchers are still involved every step of the way. They look over the AI's initial ideas, give feedback, and help refine the research direction. It's a real partnership.
That's reassuring. So it's more like this super efficient research partner that can process information really fast. Okay, so what happens after the AI comes up with research ideas?
That leads to the generation stage. That's when the AI actually starts creating those detailed research proposals.
What does a research proposal from AI even look like? Is it just like a bunch of random thoughts?
No. They are really thorough documents. You're talking literature reviews, methodologies, recruitment plans, timelines, everything a human researcher would need to actually start a study.
Wow. It's like the AI is doing the heavy lifting so the researchers can focus on the bigger picture.
Exactly. And then comes the final stage, the presentation stage.
Showtime.
You could say that. The AI actually tailors its output for different audiences. It can create super technical proposals for scientists, simplified versions for like high school science projects, and even audio summaries that anyone can understand.
That's really cool. I love that it's making research more inclusive.
Yeah.
Understandable for everybody, not just academics. Okay, so this AI is generating all these proposals. Can you give us a sneak peek into what kind of research it's proposing?
Sure. Let's jump into some of the interesting ones.
I'm ready to be amazed.
One of the proposals is titled Epigenetic Markers and Transgenerational Effects in Misophonia.
Epigenetic. Okay, you're going to break that down for me.
It sounds complicated, but it's not too bad. Basically, your genes are like a blueprint for your body, right? But epigenetics is like the dimmer switch. It controls how bright those genes shine. Certain experiences or environmental things can switch those genes on or off, or even make them brighter or dimmer. And all of this happens without changing your actual DNA sequence.
So it's not about changing the genes themselves, but how they're expressed.
Exactly. This proposal wants to look into whether misophonia could be inherited, not through the genes themselves, but through these epigenetic changes. And those changes can be passed down through generations.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Imagine if we could identify those markers early on. It could totally change how we diagnose and treat misophonia.
Exactly, and that's just one example.
Okay, I'm hooked. What other groundbreaking ideas has this AI come up with?
Well, there's another proposal focusing on the potential connection between misophonia and ADHD. It's called Exploring Neurological and Physiological Overlaps in Misophonia and ADHD, a neuroimaging study.
Now that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that before. What makes the AI think there might be a link?
Well, both misophonia and ADHD have challenges with sensory processing and impulsivity. The proposal suggests there might be some shared pathways in the brain.
So how would they study that connection?
They're proposing to use brain imaging techniques. It's kind of like taking pictures of the brain to compare the activity in people with misophonia, ADHD, and people with both.
That could be really revealing. If they find overlaps, it could lead to totally new ways of understanding and treating both misophonia and ADHD.
Exactly. And that's just the beginning. This AI is churning out all sorts of interesting proposals. We haven't even touched on the one about virtual soundscapes to manage triggers, or the one about how remote work affects people with misophonia.
This AI is like a research machine, but it feels like we've only scratched the surface here. I'm really curious to hear more about those other proposals and what they could mean for people who are living with misophonia.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive deeper into those next time.
All right, listeners, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Okay, it's me sliding back in here to say, if you're interested in learning more about what you're hearing, you can go to misophoniapodcast.com/research. There's also a link there to fill out a quick form if you want to chat and see a demo. I also just want to remind people that the conversation that you're listening to is an AI conversation about the research platform between two AI personalities. Now let's hear some more.
All right, we're back. And I gotta say, my head is spinning a little bit with all these research ideas. Before we get to the other proposals, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. That thing about the AI looking at podcast transcripts.
Yeah.
They capture those lived experiences. That just seems so smart.
It is, and it really highlights a shift in how we think about misophonia research. You know, traditionally, research has really focused on those clinical observations and those controlled experiments in a lab setting.
Yeah, it can feel a bit sterile sometimes.
Exactly. But by looking at podcasts, the AI is getting this much richer, more nuanced understanding of misophonia, and understanding that really considers, you know, the emotional and social side of it.
It's like the AI is actually getting a peek into what it's like to live with misophonia day after day.
Exactly. And that can lead to research that's more relevant and has a bigger impact.
Okay, so we've talked about epigenetics and a possible link with ADHD. What other research directions is this AI exploring? You mentioned something about virtual soundscapes, right?
Right. That one is called The Role of Virtual Soundscapes in Mitigating Misophonic Responses During Quarantine.
Quarantine, oh boy. That word brings back some memories.
Yeah.
And not good ones.
Right. This proposal actually builds on research from a few years ago, back when a lot of people were stuck at home during those lockdowns. And it turned out that being, confined with family or housemates, often without much personal space, really made misophonia symptoms worse for a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're stuck with all your triggers. I definitely remember that.
So this research wants to see if virtual soundscapes could be a way to deal with misophonia triggers, especially in those situations where you can't just get away from them.
So like putting on headphones and listening to nature sounds to block out the chewing.
Exactly. They want to look at all kinds of soundscapes. Nature sounds, calming music, even personalized ones that are made just for you.
Oh, wow, that sounds amazing. I love that idea. Having a personalized soundscape to create a little bit of peace.
Okay, what about the proposal on remote work? That feels super relevant these days. It is. It's called Effects of Remote Work on Misophonia Triggers and Coping Mechanisms.
So many people working from home now.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's good or bad for people with misophonia.
that's exactly what this research is trying to figure out. It's kind of a double-edged sword, you know?
Mm.
On one hand, working from home gives you more control over your environment. You can make a space where you have fewer triggers.
Right. No more coworkers munching chips next to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then, on the other hand, working from home might introduce new triggers, like family members, construction noise, or those dogs next door that just bark and bark and bark.
Oh, yeah, true. It's a trade-off. So how are they going to study this?
They want to use a mixed methods approach. That means they'll use surveys and also in-depth interviews so they can get a really complete picture of how working from home has affected people with misophonia.
It's really interesting to think about how our work environments, especially with so many people working remotely now, can really impact our experience with misophonia. All these proposals, they're making me think about it in a whole new way.
That's what's so great about this AI. It's not just coming up with ideas, it's starting conversations. And it's challenging us to think differently about misophonia.
Okay, so we've talked about a few of these proposals. Is that everything the AI has come up with?
Oh, no, not even close. These are just a few examples. Remember, this AI is always learning and getting better. As it gets more data and more feedback from researchers and the community, it's going to come up with even more amazing and impactful proposals.
That's really incredible. I can't wait to see what it comes up with next. It feels like we're at the very beginning of a new era in misophonia research.
I agree. This technology has the potential to make discoveries happen faster and lead to better treatments for misophonia that are really targeted.
It's definitely making me feel hopeful. But, AI isn't magic. It's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And like any tool, it needs to be used responsibly and thoughtfully.
Absolutely. That's where the human element comes in.
Mhm.
Researchers, clinicians, and the whole misophonia community need to work together to make sure this AI is used in a way that benefits everyone affected by misophonia, in an ethical way and an effective way.
This is all so promising. But how do you see this AI actually changing the lives of people with misophonia? What's the real world impact going to be?
That's a great question, and that's what we'll talk about next time.
Our listeners, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to talk about the real world impact of this incredible technology.
All right, me sliding back again to say you can learn more at misophoniapodcast.com/research. You can fill out a form to contact me, and I'll get back to you to set up a demo to chat. And I want to remind people one more time that this is a conversation that is AI generated. And now let's hear the end.
Okay, we're back, and I'm still thinking about all the amazing possibilities of this AI research engine. But let's get practical here. How could this actually change things for people who are living with misophonia?
Well, imagine a world where we're not just managing misophonia, but actually treating the root causes. That's the kind of potential we're talking about here.
Okay, I like where this is going. What would that look like in someone's everyday life?
Think about that research into epigenetics we talked about. If we can find those markers early enough, we might be able to actually stop misophonia from developing in the first place.
Wow, that would be incredible, especially for families that know misophonia is, kind of in their genes.
Yeah.
They could have a chance to break that cycle.
Exactly. And what about that virtual soundscapes research? Imagine having an app on your phone. An app that could make this personalized sound environment to minimize your triggers, whether you're at work on the bus, even at home.
That would be life-changing for so many people. It would be like having this portable safe space wherever you go.
And the research on that connection between misophonia and ADHD, that could lead to new therapies. Therapies that tackle those shared pathways in the brain. And that could help people manage both conditions much better.
It's like all the pieces are starting to fit together.
That's the power of this AI. It can connect those dots and show researchers where to focus their efforts.
This is all pretty emotional stuff to think about.
Yeah.
Could really make a real difference in people's lives.
It could, but we have to remember this research is still early. We need to be patient. It takes time to do those careful studies, analyze all the data, and then turn those findings into treatments and therapies that actually work.
Right. Patience is key.
Yeah.
But what about our listeners? Is there anything they can do right now to be a part of all this?
Definitely. First, stay informed. Keep listening to podcasts like the Misophonia podcast. That's where you'll hear about the newest research and any opportunities to get involved.
Okay, knowledge is power. What else?
Check out the AI Research Engine website. They have a whole section where you can give feedback on the proposals they've already come up with. You can even submit your own research questions.
So our listeners can actually help shape the research. That's amazing.
They can. And if you want to be even more hands-on, think about joining a research study. As these proposals from the AI move forward, they're going to need more and more volunteers.
I know being in a study can seem a little intimidating, but it's really one of the best ways to help find answers.
And remember, you don't need to be a scientist to participate. Your own experience with misophonia is valuable data.
It's like we're all scientists now trying to solve this misophonia puzzle together.
Exactly. And the more people we have working on this, the faster we can find better ways to understand and manage misophonia.
So for our listeners who are feeling inspired and want to get involved, what are the best resources?
Like I said, the AI Research Engine website is a great place to start. You can find a link in the show notes. And of course, keep listening to the Misophonia podcast to stay updated.
Adil and his team are doing amazing work keeping the community in the loop. This AI research engine is a game changer. I'm so excited to see what the future holds.
It really shows you what's possible when people collaborate and come up with new ideas. By working together, we can figure out misophonia and create a world where sound sensitivity doesn't hold anyone back.
Well said. Adil, thank you so much for having us on the Misophonia podcast. It's been an honor to be a part of this.
Thanks for having us.
Well, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed what you just heard. If you're as excited as I am about the possibilities of what we're building here, please reach out. I want to hear from researchers, misophones, anyone interested in automated science, because I think it'll benefit everyone. Go to misophoniapodcast.com/research, and there'll be more episodes of Soundcheck dropping, so stay tuned, and bye for now.